Hello. It was just a kiss. Don't be so insecure, she told me after going to her ex's birthday party. Then one of her coworkers sent me a video of what actually happened. I kicked her out and cut all contact. 3 months later, she showed up at my door screaming, "My name is Gary, I am 34, and I run a small online resale business based in Rotterdam. Most of my days revolve around sourcing inventory, packing orders, dealing with customers, and keeping the whole thing moving so it actually makes money." My wife was Jessica, 32, and we had been together for 6 years, married for 3. We lived in a 2-bedroom flat near the river, no kids, one shared car, and a routine that used to feel stable enough that I stopped questioning it. I am posting here because I need outside perspective on whether I missed something obvious or whether this situation got as ridiculous as it feels now. For most of our marriage, Jessica had a way of turning every disagreement into something that made me look unreasonable. If I brought up anything practical like boundaries, time, or respect, she would frame it like I was the one being dramatic. That was her usual approach. She rarely started with yelling. She started with that slightly amused expression that basically meant she thought I was about to embarrass myself. The issue that kicked this whole thing off looked small at first, which is probably why I didn't shut it down immediately. About 4 months ago, Jessica told me her ex was having a birthday party. She mentioned it while leaning against the kitchen counter like she was talking about a coworker's lunch break. I knew exactly who she meant. His name is Jamie. They dated before me and somehow stayed in contact over the years. Every time I said that seemed unnecessary, she told me adults can stay friends and that I was being insecure. I asked why she needed to go at all. She said because their old friend group would be there and it would be rude not to show up. Then she added that it would probably be awkward if I came, which immediately raised my eyebrows. I asked what that was supposed to mean. She said I had a habit of turning harmless social situations into interrogations. That bothered me more than the party itself. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the idea of her going alone to an ex-boyfriend's birthday party, especially one I apparently shouldn't attend. Jessica rolled her eyes and said I was proving her point about being insecure. For the next 2 days, she acted irritated with me like I had accused her of something outrageous just by reacting. The night of the party, she left around 7. What stood out immediately was how dressed up she was for something she had described as a casual get-together. When I pointed that out, she said women are allowed to look good without it turning into a courtroom hearing. She got home a little after 1 in the morning. I was still sitting on the couch with the TV on, but muted. The moment she walked in the door, I could tell something was off. Not because of anything obvious. No lipstick marks or anything like that. It was her attitude. She already looked defensive before I even opened my mouth, like she had rehearsed an argument during the drive home. At the time, I assumed she was just expecting me to complain again about the party. What I didn't realize yet was that she had a very specific reason to prepare a defense. Jessica kicked off her heels right by the door and tossed her purse on the chair like she usually did when she got home late. What stood out was how annoyed she already looked. I had not even said anything yet, and she was already acting like she had walked into an argument. I asked a simple question. I asked if the party was good. She shrugged and said it was fine. Then she walked past me toward the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water like she was trying to end the conversation before it even started. I asked who showed up. That was when the irritation started showing more clearly. She said the usual people were there. Old friends from that group she used to hang out with before we met. Then she added Jamie had clearly had too much to drink and was being dramatic because it was his birthday. The way she said his name was casual, but I could tell she was watching my reaction. I told her I was mostly curious how the night went since she got home pretty late. That was when she gave me the look she always used when she wanted to frame me as the problem. She asked if I was seriously starting an interrogation at 1 in the morning. I said no. I just asked how the night went. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Then she said something that stuck in my head immediately. She said Jamie tried to kiss her at the party, but she pushed him away. She said it quickly like it was supposed to make her look honest. Like she was being transparent before I even asked. I remember sitting there for a second, just processing that. I asked why that even happened in the first place. Jessica rolled her eyes like the answer was obvious. She said he had been drinking all night and got emotional about old memories. She said it was embarrassing, and she shut it down right away. Then she said the line that honestly annoyed me more than the story itself. It was just a kiss. Don't be so insecure. At that point, I had not even reacted yet. I told her the issue was not insecurity. The issue was that my wife went to her ex-boyfriend's birthday party without me, and somehow a kiss situation happened. She threw her hands up and said this was exactly why she did not want me there, because I turned normal social things into a crime investigation. Then she grabbed her phone and started scrolling like the conversation was already over. That was when something about the whole thing started bothering me. Not the story itself. The way she told it felt too prepared. Like she had already decided exactly what version I was supposed to accept before she even walked in the door. I let the conversation drop that night because I was tired, and because pushing further at 1 in the morning usually just turned into Jessica accusing me of ruining the evening. Still, something about her explanation kept bothering me. It was not just what she said. It was the way she delivered it. The whole thing sounded rehearsed. She walked in already irritated and then immediately volunteered the story about Jamie trying to kiss her. That alone was strange because normally she avoided admitting anything that might make her look questionable. That night she offered it before I even asked. The next morning she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, scrolled through her phone, and talked about some office gossip like the conversation from the night before had never taken place. I asked one more question while we were eating breakfast. I asked why Jamie would suddenly try something like that after all these years. Jessica sighed like I had just asked the dumbest question on the planet. She said alcohol makes people stupid and that men sometimes get nostalgic when they drink. Then she added that she already told me she shut it down and that it was weird I kept circling back to it. That was her move every time. If I asked a second question, she framed it like obsessive behavior. So I dropped it. For the next couple of days, everything seemed normal. She went to work, I ran my business, and life moved on like the party had been a minor footnote. Then about a week later something happened that completely changed how I looked at the whole situation. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office packing orders when I got a message request on Instagram from someone I didn't recognize. The account name looked like a normal personal profile, not a spam account. At first I almost ignored it because my business page gets random messages all the time. But the preview of the message caught my attention. It said something along the lines of "I think you deserve to see this." That immediately made my stomach drop. I opened the message. The person introduced himself as someone who worked with Jessica. He said he debated for a few days about whether to send the message at all. Then he said something that made my chest tighten. He said he was at Jamie's birthday party, and what Jessica told me about the kiss was not exactly what happened. Under that message there was a video attachment. I stared at the message for a solid minute before opening the video. Part of me was already expecting something bad. People usually do not send a message like that unless they are about to show you something unpleasant. Still, I tried to give Jessica the benefit of the doubt for a few seconds. Maybe the video just showed Jamie leaning in and her pushing him away like she described. Maybe the guy messaging me just thought it looked worse than it actually was. I opened the video. The clip was about 15 seconds long, and it was clearly filmed on a phone inside a crowded bar. Music was loud, and people were standing close together near what looked like a long table with drinks everywhere. Jessica was easy to spot immediately. She was standing right next to Jamie with her arm around his shoulders. Not the kind of casual side hug you give an old friend. It looked comfortable, familiar. They were laughing about something while people around them were singing happy birthday. Then Jamie leaned in. What happened next did not match Jessica's story at all. He did not randomly try to kiss her and get rejected. Jessica kissed him first. Not a quick, awkward peck either. It was slow and obvious and lasted long enough that the people around them started cheering. Someone off camera even shouted something about them getting back together. Jamie pulled her closer, and they kept kissing for another couple seconds before finally separating. Jessica was smiling. That was the part that stuck with me the most. There was no surprise on her face. No pushing him away. No embarrassment. She looked like she was enjoying the attention. The video ended right after that. I sat there in my office replaying it 3 times just to make sure I was not misinterpreting something. Every time it looked worse. The message from the coworker popped up again while I was staring at the screen. He said he thought I should know because Jessica had told people at work a completely different version of the story on Monday. Apparently, she had been joking about kissing her ex at the party. That was when something in my head just switched off. Not anger. Clarity. I closed the video, locked my phone, and sat there for about 30 seconds thinking through what the next step needed to be. After watching the video a few more times, I stopped trying to analyze it. There was nothing left to interpret. Jessica did not reject Jamie. She leaned in and kissed him first. Then she stood there smiling while people around them cheered. After that she came home and told me he tried to kiss her and acted like I was insecure for even caring. That was enough information for me. I closed my laptop, grabbed my keys, and drove straight home. The apartment was empty when I walked in. Jessica was still at work and normally would not be back for another couple of hours. I stood in the living room for maybe 30 seconds just looking around. Not in a dramatic way, more like mentally separating what was about to change. Then I went into the bedroom and pulled 2 suitcases out of the closet. I started packing her things. I did not throw anything around or try to damage anything. I just moved through the room methodically. Clothes from the closet, shoes from the rack, makeup and toiletries from the bathroom. Everything that was clearly hers went into bags. The quiet in the apartment made the whole thing feel strangely calm. About halfway through, I paused for a minute on the edge of the bed, mostly thinking about the practical side of it. The lease was in my name. I had been living there before we got married. Most of the furniture was mine too. Legally and logistically, there was nothing stopping me from ending the living arrangement right there. So I finished packing. By the time I was done, 3 large bags were sitting next to the front door. Then I sat down on the couch and waited. Jessica walked in around 6:30, still in her work clothes and scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up at first. Then she noticed the bags. She froze in the doorway and stared at them for a couple seconds before looking at me. I told her I saw the video from Jamie's birthday party. For the first time since I had known her, Jessica looked genuinely caught off guard. She tried to laugh it off and said something about it just being a stupid kiss. I told her she already lied about that once, and I was not interested in hearing a second version. Then I pointed at the bags and told her she needed to leave. That was when the screaming started. Jessica's reaction was immediate and loud. She started yelling before she even put her bag down. Not confused yelling either. Angry yelling. The kind people use when they think they can overpower the situation with volume. She asked what the hell I thought I was doing. I told her again that I saw the video. For a second, she tried the same tactic she used the night of the party. She rolled her eyes and said it was just a kiss, and that I was blowing things out of proportion. I did not argue with her. I simply picked up my phone, opened the video, and held the screen out so she could see it. The moment she recognized what was playing, the color drained out of her face. She watched the clip for maybe 5 seconds before looking away. Then she switched strategies. Suddenly, it was not about denying it anymore. It was about minimizing it. She started saying it was stupid and meaningless and that everyone there had been drinking. She said Jamie kissed her, and she just went along with it for a second because the whole group was cheering and it would have been awkward to push him away. I reminded her that the video clearly showed her leaning in first. That was when she snapped again. She said I was acting insane over something harmless and that normal people would laugh something like that off. Then she asked who sent me the video like that was the real problem. I told her that did not matter. The only thing that mattered was that she lied to my face and then tried to make me feel insecure about it. She kept talking over me, raising her voice higher each time. At one point, she said something that honestly made the whole situation easier. She said if I had trusted her like a normal husband, none of this would even be a problem. That sentence basically confirmed everything I needed to know. So I stood up, walked to the door, and pulled it open. Then I pointed at the bags. I told her the conversation was over and she needed to take her things and leave. Jessica stared at me like she was waiting for me to back down. When I did not move, she started screaming again, this time louder, accusing me of throwing away a marriage over one stupid moment. I told her calmly that the moment was not the kiss. The moment was the lie that came after it. Then I stepped aside and waited for her to walk out. Jessica stood there for another 10 seconds like she was still expecting me to change my mind. When it became obvious that I wasn't going to argue anymore, the anger came back again. She grabbed the first suitcase and dragged it across the floor toward the hallway. While she was doing that, she kept talking. Not really to me. More like talking at me. She said I was overreacting. She said people in real relationships work through mistakes. She said throwing her out proved I had always been controlling. I didn't respond. The whole point of packing her things beforehand was to avoid turning it into a long emotional debate. I had already made the decision. She hauled the rest of the bags out to the hallway, muttering under her breath the whole time. At one point, she turned around and said I was going to regret this once I calmed down. I told her calmly that I was already calm. That seemed to irritate her more than anything else. A few minutes later, she made one last trip back inside to grab her purse and jacket. She stopped near the door and looked at me like she wanted the final word. Then she said something about how a normal husband would have laughed about a drunk birthday kiss instead of destroying his marriage over it. I told her the marriage was destroyed the moment she lied about it and tried to turn it around on me. After that, she finally left. The door closed behind her and the apartment went quiet. I locked the door, picked up the spare key she had left on the counter, and put it back in the drawer. Then I sat on the couch for a while, not to second-guess anything, just to let the situation settle in my head. The next morning, I started the practical steps. First thing I did was call a lawyer. The consultation was straightforward. I explained the situation, the living arrangement, and the fact that we didn't have children or shared property beyond normal household items. By the end of the meeting, the paperwork process for filing for divorce had already started. Once that was done, I blocked Jessica's number. I blocked her on every social media account I had. As far as I was concerned, the situation was finished. For the next 3 months, I did not hear a single word from her. Then one night around 9:30, someone started pounding on my front door. The pounding on the door was aggressive enough that it immediately put me on alert. Not a normal knock. It sounded like someone was trying to break the door down. At first, I assumed it might be a neighbor with some kind of emergency, so I walked over and looked through the peephole. It was Jessica. 3 months had passed since the night I told her to leave. In that entire time, she had never once tried to contact me directly. No emails. No messages from unknown numbers. Nothing. So seeing her standing there banging on the door was the last thing I expected. She looked furious. Her hair was messy like she had been running her hands through it, and she was pacing back and forth in the hallway between pounding on the door again. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I asked through the door what she wanted. That only made her louder. She started yelling my name and telling me to open the door so we could talk like adults. The volume alone was enough that I was pretty sure half the floor could hear it. I told her through the door that there was nothing left to talk about. That was when the screaming really started. She began ranting about how I had ruined her life and how filing for divorce without even trying to fix things proved I never cared about the marriage. I reminded her that she had 3 months to contact a lawyer and handle everything through the legal process like a normal person. Apparently, that was not what she wanted. She started shouting that I had embarrassed her and turned everyone against her. According to her version of events, I had blown a harmless situation completely out of proportion and destroyed our marriage because of my ego. Then she said something that made the whole situation make more sense. She said Jamie had already moved on, and she hoped I was happy about that. I just stood there on the other side of the door listening to her yell. After a minute, I told her if she didn't leave, I was going to call the police. That stopped the pounding for a few seconds. Then she started screaming again. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and held it up so she could hear me unlocking it through the door. I told her again that if she did not leave, I was calling the police. For a moment, the hallway went quiet. Not completely quiet, but the pounding stopped. Then she started talking again, but this time it sounded less like screaming and more like frantic damage control. She said I was being ridiculous and that I was really going to call the police on my own wife. I corrected her through the door and said ex-wife. That made her snap again. She started ranting about how I had destroyed everything over one stupid moment. According to her, normal couples work through things instead of throwing each other out like garbage. What she conveniently kept ignoring was the part where she lied to my face and tried to make me feel insecure about it. While she kept yelling, I actually did start dialing the non-emergency police line. I said it out loud so she could hear it. I told the dispatcher that someone was outside my apartment door refusing to leave and causing a disturbance in the building. The change on the other side of the door was immediate. Jessica suddenly stopped yelling. For about 5 seconds, there was only silence in the hallway. Then I heard her mutter something under her breath that I could not make out. After that came the sound of her dragging something across the floor, probably her bag. Finally, I heard footsteps moving toward the elevator. I stayed by the door for another minute just to be sure she was actually gone. When I looked through the peephole again, the hallway was empty. I explained to the dispatcher that the situation had resolved itself and apologized for the call. Then I hung up. I locked the door again, walked back to the couch, and sat there for a few minutes thinking about how strange the whole interaction had been. Jessica had not shown up to apologize. She had not shown up to fix anything. She came there because something in her life had clearly gone wrong and she wanted someone to blame. And for whatever reason, she thought that person should still be me. After Jessica left that night, I expected there might be one more attempt to contact me. Maybe a message from a new number. Maybe another visit where she tried a calmer approach. None of that happened. The hallway stayed quiet. My phone stayed silent. About 2 weeks later, I heard the final update through someone who used to be part of Jessica's friend group. Apparently, the situation with Jamie had not worked out the way she expected. From what I was told, they hooked up a couple of times after the birthday party, and Jessica assumed that meant they were getting back together. Jamie apparently had a very different interpretation and moved on almost immediately. Once that happened, Jessica started telling people that she regretted how everything unfolded with me. But regret after the fact does not really mean much. The reality is simple. She chose to kiss her ex at a party full of people. Then she came home, lied about it, and tried to convince me I was insecure for even questioning it. When the truth came out, she still did not apologize. She argued, screamed, and blamed me for reacting. That was the moment the marriage actually ended for me. Everything after that was just logistics. Looking back now, kicking her out that same day was probably the cleanest decision I could have made. No long arguments. No weeks of pretending things might go back to normal. Just a very clear line. 3 months of silence after that only confirmed the choice. The strange part is that life without the constant tension actually feels calmer. Running my business is easier when I am not dealing with someone who turns every boundary into a debate. So that is the whole situation. My wife kissed her ex at his birthday party, lied about it, and called me insecure when I questioned it. Someone at the party sent me the video. I packed her things, told her to leave, and never spoke to her again. 3 months later, she showed up screaming at my door because her life had not gone the way she expected. I still did not open it. Bye-bye.